Hello, everyone. Um, Welcome to another segment of intellectual brainstorming and academic excellence. My name once again is David Oni, and my YouTube channel is David Oni. Like I always say, please subscribe to our channel. For the returning subscribers, we say a very big thank you. And also, don't forget to leave your comment and also to click on the notification button so that whenever we upload videos on this platform, you can always be one of the first people to watch our videos. And don't forget also to leave your like, to click on the like bucket button. You know. So today we're going to continue with where we stopped last time, and that is on the military government, you know, in Nigeria. The topic on the military government. We've discussed about the history or the chronology of Nigerian military rule. Then we also talk about the characteristics of military rule, and we have also talked about what the reasons for military coup. So today let us quickly look at what we call the structure of military rule. The structure of military rule in Nigeria. Now, the structure of the military rule in Nigeria is number one, the head of state or the president. So in Nigeria, the head of the military government is called the head of state. But don't forget that under Babangida, Major General Ibrahim Badamosi Babangida, he was referred to as as a president, unlike the other head of state that they are referred to as what as a head of state in the country. But under Babangida, it was called the president. So the president or the commander in chief is the head of is the head of state. So he's the commander in chief, and as the commander in chief, he heads the army, the navy, the air force, and other security apparatus in the states. So he appoints for the inspector general of police. He appoints the ambassador. He has the power of appointment, and he has the power of what of dismissal. So all the judges of the federal high court, the ambassadors and the rest of them, they are actually what appointed by the president or the head of state. Now, after that, we have what we call the SMC, the SMC, can also be called as the Armed Forces Ruling Council, depending on the military government in power. Because whenever they come to power, they can adopt different names for for this body. So we have the SMC, that is Supreme Military Council, and the Armed Forces Ruling Council. So whether it is the Armed Forces Ruling Council or the Supreme Military Council, it is still the same. You understand? It is still the same. So the SMC or the Armed Forces Ruling Council is the highest legislative organ of the military government. So when you talk about the SMC or the Armed Forces Ruling Council or the PRC, Provisional Ruling Council, they are all the same thing. Whether SMC, Supreme Military Council, or the Armed Forces Ruling Council or the Provisional Ruling Council, they are all the same. So they are the highest legislative organ of what? Of the military. Of the military. Don't forget that. Of the military. So they are the highest legislative organ of the military. And as the highest legislative organ of the military, it is still headed by the what? By the head of state. So it's headed by the head of state and is assisted or surrounded by the chief of army staff, the chief of air staff, the chief of naval staff, the chief of defense staff, just name them. The justice minister, the secretary of the federal government, and other high-ranking military officers. They all constitute what we call the Supreme Military Council or the Armed Forces Ruling Council or the Provisional Ruling Council. Very, very simple. Very, very simple. Now, after that, we have what we call, the Council of State. The Council of State. The Council of State is also headed by what? By the head of state, but it's made up of what? Of past, leaders. It's made up of what? Of past or former head of state and other military governors. It consists of what? Of the head of state and what? And other past, head of state and what? And the military, governors of the respective states. So they debate on national issues. That's the debate on national issues. And because of the nature of what? Of the kind of debate that they have, it must consist of what? Of former head of a state. So don't forget, we also have inclusion the chief of what? Of general staff and some other officials like that. They all constitute what we call the council of state. Then that is number three. We have mentioned the head of state or the president. We have mentioned the Supreme Military Council. We have mentioned the Armed Forces Ruling Council or the Provisional Ruling Council. And we have also mentioned the Council of State. Now, we also have what we call the Council of Ministers. So, the Council of Ministers is the body that is responsible for the implementation of decisions and policies made by what? By the Supreme Military Council or the Armed Forces Ruling Council or the Provisional Ruling Council. So that body that is responsible for the implementation and the execution and of those policies that are made by any of these bodies that I've mentioned so far, it is the Council of Ministers that carry out such a responsibility. So it's also headed by the head of state and is assisted by the chief of general staff, and other federal ministers are also members. They are also members of this council of ministers. Now we also have what we call, which is number 5, the state military governor. The state military governor. The state military governor is the representative of the head of state in the respective states. So the state military governor is the representatives, just like when you have a governor at the democratic level, you have a president, you have a governor. So at the state level, you have the state military governor. So the state military governor is responsible to the military head of state, and they are the representative of the military head of state at the state level. So they are referred to as what? As state military governors. So the state military governors is performs both executive and what and the legislative functions. It performs both the legislative and executive functions, and is assisted by state commissioners and other state officials, state commissioners and other state officials at that level. They will also have what we call the state executive council. So the state executive council is responsible for, just like when we have the council of ministers. At the state level, we have what we call the state executive council. So at the federal level, at the upper level, we have what we call the National Council of Ministers. But at the state level, we have what? The State Executive Council. So that body is responsible for the formulation and execution of what? Of state policies. That is, the policies that are made by the state military governor is enforced by what? By the State Executive Council. The State Executive Council formulate and execute the policies of what? Of the military governor of the respective state. So that's it. So is also assisted by what? By so many people or state officials, which that helps him what in so that the government can be able to carry out and execute most of its numerous functions. Now, that is it about the structure of the military government. Now, let us quickly look at what we call the achievement of military government. When you talk about the achievement of the military government, there are so many achievements, but because of our time, we're going to, talk about little of them. Number one is that they have been able to keep the country together. If you remember, in 1967, there was a war in Nigeria that ran from 1967 to 1970. But at the end of the day, they were able to keep the country together. So one of the achievements of the military is what is keeping the country together. Then number two, the military government has also been able to maintain peace, most especially whenever there's election crisis in this country and the military steps in, they're able to maintain calm and they're able to maintain peace. Then apart from that, the military government has also been able to create states in Nigeria. They have also been able to create a state in Nigeria. Don't forget that in the 60s, from 1960, in the late 60s, from 1966, Nigeria was operating on what we call a regional government. We have what they call the northern region, the eastern region. We also have what we call the midwestern region and the western region. So there were four regions at that time: north, west, east, and midwestern region. But when the military came into power, they created 12 states. And right now in Nigeria, we have what we call 36 states. I think they deserve a clap. So 36 states, one way or the other, 36 states. Then introduction of new currencies. The military government has achieved a lot in introduction of new currency in this country. Before we were using a different currency, but now we have naira as our currency. And another one is that they have been able to return government to civilian rule. Don't forget that I said from May 29, 1999 till this moment, 2021, Nigerian government is being ruled by a democratic government. So military, they have been able to hand over power to the civilian administration. Then they have also been able to provide infrastructure. They have also been able to provide what we call infrastructure. And one of the things that makes the country to develop or that facilitates or makes life so easy is infrastructural facilities. So the military in this regard have also been able to provide the infrastructure. Then they have also been able to move Nigerian capital from Lagos to the place called Abuja now, to the place called Abuja. So Abuja is now the capital of Nigeria. But before it was Lagos. But now we have Abuja. And this was done under the government of Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida during his era. That was when Lagos, the capital of Nigeria, was moved from Lagos to Abuja. Now let us now look at the problem of the military or their weakness. Number one is what we call corruption. One of the reasons why the military government comes into power is because of corruption. They wanted to stop corruption. But eventually, at the end of the day, they are even more corrupt than their civilian counterparts. Till date in Nigeria, they are still, getting the money that has been looted in this country from a particular head of state. That Nigeria is still bringing back the money from the Swiss bank and other places that this money have been hidden at. So corruption is one of their problems. Then violation of fundamental human rights. Under a military rule, fundamental human rights is nothing, it's null and void. In fact, during this period, a lot of people are always missing, and their families, even up today, they have not been able to find them. Apart from that, people are beaten up, they are harassed, they are, intimidated, they are imprisoned, most especially those that are opposed to the military government. They are seen as the enemy of the state, and for that reason, they are always their rights as human beings are always violated. Then another one is that military power government always stay in power longer. For example, Major General Gowon spent 9 years in power. Ibrahim Babangida spent 8 years in power. So you can imagine that. So they always stay longer in power. And in most cases, you have what we call militarized African president, where the military government will now organize an election, and the same military head of state will still become the president of what of that particular country, transforming from a military to a civilian. And this is not their area of speciality. They are trained to defend the country and not to administrate a country. Then another one is not they are not trained to rule. That's another thing. Then they have what we call economic mismanagement, which is also part of their problem or part of the weakness. They also have what we call draconian laws or draconian laws. We discussed about that before. We said when you talk about draconian laws, there are laws that are meant to favor the interests of the military at the expense of fundamental human rights. And in such period, the rule of law is what is always violated. You know, the government rules what with a despotic power. It rules with authoritarian power. It rules with dictatorial power. It chooses authoritarian in an authoritarian way, in a totalitarian way. And in such situation, there is no what? There is no room for opposition in such a society. Now, how do we prevent a military rule? How can we prevent military rule? That's another subtopic, which is our last topic. How do we prevent military rule? Military rule should be outlawed by the constitution. One of the ways through which military rule can be, dealt with is to outlaw military rule in the country. The law should be made to outlaw it, to go against it, to not to allow it. Then the military number two should not be politicized. One of the reasons why the military will always come into power is because the military government or the military boys are used by the so-called politicians to fulfill their whims and their caprices. You understand? So if this is removed, if the military is not politicized, the military will not come into power. They will not come into power. The other one is what? If there's good governance, that's number three. Good governance will prevent military government from coming into power. The other one, number four, is what we call free and fair election. If free and fair election is being held in the country, then there's no need for military government to come into power. Then another one, which is the last one, is what is transparency in government. If there's transparency in government, then there's no room for military power. If there's trust in the system, if the government is able to be accountable to the people, if they are transparent to the people, if there's integrity in government, if there's good governance, if there's provision of social services, if there's a stable political system, I can guarantee you that military soldiers and the military will always stay in their barracks and perform their constitutional duty, which is to defend the country against any form of attack, whether internal attack or external attack. So on this note, I'm going to round up on the topic military government in Nigeria. I remain your humble servant, David Oni, and my YouTube channel is David Oni Wiz. Please subscribe to this channel, leave your comments, click on the notification, and also like our channel. As we have almost promised you, we always endeavor to bring good lectures that would benefit our teeming Nigerian educated population. So please encourage us, subscribe to our channel. Till we meet next time, thank you and God bless you.